Hello and welcome to the Magic is Real podcast. I am Shannon. I'm your host. Today I have with me Annie Stewart, who is here to share her amazing story about her shared death experience with her sister. And I'm coming to you in advance to let you know to please stick around for the end because we ended up having a special visitor. Her sister on the other side came through and delivered messages from the other side to Annie, which we did record, and with permission, I am sharing them. So definitely we'll wait until the outro, and then there will be a mediumship reading to follow where Annie's sister and her mother came through very clearly to me. So I hope you enjoy and are inspired and are reminded that death is only an illusion. Thank you. Hello, and thank you for tuning in to the Magic is Real podcast today. My name is Shannon, and I am a psychic medium. I am also the host of this show. I would love it if you wouldn't mind liking, sharing, subscribing, and commenting below. It really is a way to support the podcast for free. Plus, it lets me get to know you. So, thank you in advance for taking the time to do that. Today, I have with me Annie Stewart. And hi, Annie. How are you doing?
Hi, Shannon. Thank you for the opportunity of being here.
I am so glad to have you. I asked Annie to send me a bio, and I'm just going to tell you what she wrote. She said, after the shared death experience with my sister Kate as she passed away, I finally acknowledged all the many experiences I've had over many years. Out of body experiences, predictive dreams, help from the other side in really rough times, just to mention a few. Over a 5-week period, I had an NDE after going into anaphylaxis, a soul sharing with my sister while in the shower, and then the shared death experience with her. Since my sister Kate crossed over, I've had a visual visitation and many other communications from her where I heard her voice, messages, and continue to see flickering lights. This has changed my life in deep ways, and I have a need to share this with others, especially the fact that I saw my nephew who had died by suicide a couple of years before. There are situations where I feel more in tune with the other side since then, but I'm not fully ready to take a deep dive into that yet, preferring to find my feet in this world first. I loved that you said that, so I wanted to include that because
Thank
I
you.
think that's an important thing to touch on. Annie, thank you so much for being here. I would love it if we start with you just telling me a bit about your background and your life. What was your life like before these things happened, or did they happen when you were young? And also, what might your spiritual beliefs have been growing up? How were you raised?
Okay, I grew up in South Africa, and life was pretty busy from oh, pretty young. It was busy with young kids in my early 20s and moving across to America later on. Multiple different things and bigger issues. So that, as I said, after the shared death experience, I only then realized how many things had been happening that I just pushed away because I didn't have the time or the um, emotional or mental capacity to deal with that as well as what I was dealing with then. Katie and I, Kate was a year older than I am exactly, 365 days. And we grew up pretty close. We were pretty tight all our lives. We looked alike, we sounded alike. As I say, year difference. We came across to the States together. And after we came to the States in 94, we we literally grew even closer. We lived close to each other, always within walking distance. And I helped raise her kids in a manner, they were always here. She was always here. So we were very close, but life was really busy. So a lot of these experiences that I had never really took root in my brain. They never sat at all. We didn't grow up in any religious um, family. We didn't grow up with a format we had to follow. My dad was very open. My mom just went along with that. So I feel that I really wasn't pushing it away, but I wasn't embracing my experiences either until this all happened.
Right. Do, what do you remember about your childhood in terms of any spiritual experiences you may have had, or were you, I would assume that you were a sensitive child, but how
Well,
would you describe yourself?
I was a typical middle child, the almost wanting to be odd one out. The experiences I had with there at that time were more that I was aware of people's thoughts or their intentions. So I tended to stay away from people where other people didn't understand why, but I never analyzed that. It was only in my 20s that I started having some predictive dreams. I started seeing auras. And that again, I just was like, okay, that's a weird thing, but I put it away, and I really, I really honestly didn't pay any of them any attention. Um, and mostly, I don't remember much of anything happening before about 18, 19, and that's when I moved out of home into my own apartment. That's when I started finding that I was becoming a bit more aware. But again, at that time, I didn't notice that. I realize it now looking back.
I can relate with that definitely. Yeah, well, let's start wherever you'd like. Where all of this began
Oh,
or evolved, because I know it isn't something that happens in one day.
well, what happened was now 11 years ago, Katie was diagnosed with breast cancer and she decided to go the natural path. So we literally cried for 10 minutes and then jumped on computers and researched and made a plan and got stuck into it. So life was extremely busy. Before, about 5, 6 years before that, my son was diagnosed with leukemia as well. So I was already busy, but got busier with Katie, and she did very, very well for 9 of the 10 years. And we moved down to Florida. We were living up in Tennessee. We moved down to Florida because we both felt we wanted to get back to the beach, back to the water. And then her last year became very tough. And eventually she came home to me in hospice December a year ago now. And that's when all this started. But the first two incidences I had the near death experience and then the walk in that I'm still not quite sure how to word it. Those two still didn't make me wake up because at that time I was in the middle of hospice caring my sister. But what happened is she came home with me on a Friday, and with her came her two cats and a dog. And I had two cats. So I have a zoo and a sister on hospice in a tiny house, and it was terribly emotional, but also very, very busy. So the first week went fine. And then the following Friday, the cats got into an unbelievable fight. And somehow I got involved. I got a cat scratch or a cat bite on my hand, and I washed it off because my thought was I couldn't get sick with anything because I've got to take care of Katie. So I washed it off and then thought I was being really smart, which I obviously was not. I realized I had some antibiotics in the house and I took them without even thinking. And within a minute, I was in anaphylaxis. My sight started going, my hearing started going, I was throwing up. It was it was terrifying because I could see Kate and I could see that she was panicking. She's laying in her bed. So she made a phone call to a friend of ours up the road who's an ICU nurse, and she skidded in the house and said, "You need to go to hospital now." So I got to the hospital and I don't remember much apart from literally falling in the door, and then they took me away. And I was in this room, and the nurse said to me, "We're going to have to intubate you. This is really, really bad." And I said, "No, just see if the meds work first," because I had seen enough of intubation with COVID and everything. I just didn't want to have any part of it. So she says, "We'll try, but I don't think we're going to get that right." And then I was gone. And I don't remember that being in the hospital, whether I fell asleep, whether I was unconscious, I don't know. But the next thing, I was back in my living room at about ceiling height, looking down at Kate sleeping in her hospice bed. And I thought that's weird because the friend that had come around, Aranel, always sits in one place on the couch. And she was sitting in a different place. And I wondered, why is Aranel sitting there? And how come can I see Katie? And how come can she be sleeping when I'm in the hospital? It was just the whole thing was, but with that, those were background questions. And then if a stronger question came through from me, what it will happen to Katie if I die now? And the answer came back from outside of me, but not from a singular being or entity. It was more like it was almost like surround sound. And the answer came back, don't worry, it'll be okay. She'll be okay. And that scene faded. And then the animals, all four cats and the dog, were all in a row and they were all looking up at me. And the same question, what will happen to the animals? Because Kate particularly was very concerned about her animals staying together. What will happen to the animals if I die now? And the answer came back again from outside of me, don't worry, it'll be okay. They'll be fine. So that scene, the animals faded away, and then my three adult children. I could see them all looking at me. There was nothing in the background of any of this. It was just the faces. And as the question was forming in me, the same question, halfway through that question, I realized, no, I'm not ready to let them go. I'm not ready to leave them yet. And the question stopped and the answer never happened. The answer never came back. And then I don't know how long after that it was, the nurse had woke me up and all the machines were back to their normal beeping. And she said I could get dressed and go home. She said to throw the medication away because I came really, really close. That's all she said. And in the state I was, I, I didn't ask anything because I realized as she was talking that I could see her mouth move, but I wasn't hearing it with my ears. It was like her answers were inside my head, and I didn't understand this. So I just got dressed and I walked out, and I didn't know where I was, but the male nurse kind of saw that I was lost and he told me where to go. And I went outside, and as I walked out the hospital emergency entrance there, you've got that big parking place where the cars come and drop off, where the ambulances come and drop people. And I could hear I could see the cars and I could see people and I could see that people were talking, but I still couldn't hear with my ears. I wasn't hearing anything at that point. And the thought came to mind was, or the question was, am I alive or am I dead? I didn't know. It was like I was in two spaces and I didn't know which one I really lived in. So I looked across and there was a sidewalk next to a brick building. And I thought, I'm going to walk across there and touch that wall. Because if my hand goes through the wall, then I know I'm dead. At that time, the question came to mind, well, how am I going to feel if my hand goes through and I'm dead? How will I feel about that? And so I just carried on walking and I touched that wall very tentatively the first time. And I carried on touching it all the way down the sidewalk where I walked down to another road. And there was a signpost on these two metal poles. I think it was an emergency entrance signpost. And I was very, very tired and I wanted to lean up against the pole and just relax a bit before I called my nephew to come and pick me up again. But I first wanted to touch the pole all the way down to make sure that I wasn't going to fall through because I felt if I fell through, people would see me falling and maybe laugh. And then I realized, well, if I fall through and I'm dead, nobody's going to see me anyway. So I stood against the poles for a couple of minutes, chuckling, and realized that I was now back in this world. The other one faded and everything was solidified again in this world. Um, so that was a very short, when I say short, there were two, the looking at what was going on in the house here, as well as the not knowing whether I was alive or dead. That both of them were relatively short by comparison to the shared death. One thing about that is when I saw Kate, when I was up against ceiling height, looking down on Katie and her friend or our friend sitting on the couch. I asked her later, I said to her, why were you sitting on a different or in a different place? And she said, how did you know that? And that's when I told her. And she was like, yeah, you were right. I was sitting in a different place.
Wow.
So there was confirmation there that it was what I saw.
Right.
So um, after that that was right before, I think that was the day before Christmas. And then Kate, then about a week later or so, Aronel came back in because she would pop in every couple of days or once a day and just come and say hello and check on Kate and see how I was doing. And she came and she took a look at me and she said, you are exhausted. Go and have a shower, go and take a break, go and sleep a little while. I'm here. And I knew that Aronel She could do better than I could. Katie was totally safe with her, so I was totally relaxed in going to the other side of the house and just relaxing. So I got into the shower and I'm standing in the shower and I feel Kate come inside me. Like it's like I became both of us. And at the same time I felt that, and I've never had that before, so I don't know how I recognized that, but I just knew that Kate was part of me now. And she says, "Ha ha, sis, look what I can do." I got such a fright, I just jumped out the shower. I mean, I didn't know what to do, but that's exactly the sort of thing she would do. We would tease each other a lot. So that is the sort of thing she would do. And I'm thinking, well, so I came through and I looked and she's fast asleep in the bed. So I don't know, at that point it was okay. I just left it right there, got out the shower, and I said to Aronel, I'm fine. There's no ways I could have slept after that. So I just came back and did what I needed to do. And the same thing about 3 days later, Aronel came in again and said, okay, now it's time for a break. So I went back to have a shower. And this time I felt Katie coming in and she didn't say anything. And I thought, okay, I'm going to see if I am now me or if I'm Kate or what's going on. So I reached up to touch my hair because Kate's hair was coarser than mine. And at that moment, I was me as well as Kate, and I was also standing outside in front of myself, looking at me, lifting my hand up, and realizing that this was Kate's hair in what I could see was a body that had both of us. And that stopped right then. It just stopped right like that. So I told Aronel about that because at that point it had been a good couple of weeks already, 3, 4, 5 weeks, 4 weeks, 3 weeks, that I was sole caregiver for Kate, and that day and night, there was hospice obviously came in, but there was very little. There were very few times I had a break, and I was sleeping maybe 3, 4 hours a night. So I told Aronal, who was, or she is, much more in tune with the spiritual world than I had ever been aware of. And she said to me, "You do know that you can ask Katie not to do that again. That you're just too tired to do. You can't deal with it. You can tell her not to do it." So I thought, okay. So when it happened the third time, as I felt Kate coming inside me again, I said to Katie, I can't do this. I love you, but I've got to be able to take care of you. I cannot process this and take care of you. And that was over. And she hasn't done it again since. I wish she would sometimes, but it hasn't happened again.
Yeah. Wow, that's really interesting too when we talk about the who is the observer. Because a lot of people will say um it sort of helps us get in touch with our spiritual selves when we think about who is it that's observing this? Who is it that's
Mhm.
actually thinking? Yes, the brain thinks, but who's the observer and what is the entity that sees everything and processes everything? And your
Yeah.
experience really illustrates that how you can be in your body and
Mhm.
outside your body at the same time,
Yes. Yes.
which is really interesting.
And and be aware of both. It's that I was aware that in the shower instance that it was Kate and me, I was feeling this because I was physically feeling my hair and I was watching and I was aware I was outside, as in also walking outside the hospital, knowing that I'm not fully in either world, but being
Right.
aware of and questioning, like, okay, am I dead? Am I alive? I'll touch the wall, but what am I going to feel like? So that it's interesting to know that not only can one be in two at one, but you can think fully. And that came back up in the shared death experience as well.
Right. And so at this point, these were just out of body. She was still alive.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
s
she
but her
was.
soul but her soul was one foot in and one foot out, it feels like to me. Does that make
Yes,
sense to
yeah,
you?
she was the last 3 weeks when most of this with the first one, the near death experience, she was still being able to get up and she was awake a lot and all that sort of stuff, and but the shower thing, I never spoke to her about that because she was already going so far down, and the last couple of months of her life were really all about her, and she had enough on her mind. And I found that she just really wanted to concentrate on herself. So I didn't bring in my issues talking with her. So I never got to talk to her about those.
Oh, I wish you'd asked her. It would have been interesting
I
to see what
know.
she would, if she had cognizant, if she was aware of this, or if it was something that was happening on a soul level.
I would love to know that. I would absolutely. Now, with the third thing that happened in that time period, um, about a week, maybe a week before Katie died, we were having a conversation. We talked really openly about death and dying and things like that. Or she would tell me what she was thinking. And she said that she didn't know if there was anything after this life, but if there was, that would be good. If there wasn't, she wouldn't know about it. So she was fine either way, okay? And in that conversation, at the end of that, she got very tearful and she looked at me and she said, You know, Annie, I think I have this very, very strong feeling that there's going to be two of us going. And I looked at her and I said, Katie, I don't feel like I'm going to die physically. Emotionally, I'm probably going to want to because you're going to not be here anymore, but I don't think you need to worry about that. And she said, I'm just telling you, it's a really strong feeling.
Wow.
And then she said, "Okay, let's go inside." So she did. That was the end. She would rather abruptly end conversations when she had reached her max. So we stopped that conversation. And then um, she was she was non-responsive for about 2 days before she actually passed away. And the last night she was alive, Aranel had said she would come and sit here with me um, because I'd never been with anybody who was passing, and this was my closest being. I mean, Katie was my other half. So Aranel wanted to make sure I was going to be okay and that Kate had a gentle passing and all that. So she stayed with me that night, and we basically sat up the whole night on the couch with Katie in the bed. And at 7 in the morning, Aranel got up and she said, "Okay, I need to go feed the cat." Or not, she got up. We'd finished sorting out Katie, and she said she has to go and catch up with some sleep and feed her cats. And she bent over and she kissed Katie on the forehead, and then went out and said her goodbyes and went because she knew that she wouldn't see Kate alive again. She just knew this was it. And so I let her out the door and I came back in, and as I say, Kate had been unresponsive for 2 days. But when I came back into the living room, there was a tear running down Kate's face and the other one pooled in her eye. And that was a bit stunning because I thought she had been not able to communicate, no communication at all, but yet she was having these emotions. And I thought, okay, I need to just pull myself because now I'm a little nervous because now I'm on my own. And I know I'm going to have to leave Aranel to sleep for a good couple of hours. So this is on me. And I came and sat on the couch just to pull myself together for a while. And almost immediately as I sat down, I had this incredibly strong, I wanted to say feeling, but it was a knowing that I have to get up and be right next to Kate. So I stood up off the couch, and you know how when you get off a couch, everything's kind of pointed downwards. So if you're looking, your eyes are looking at the carpet or the floor. And I noticed this big number. It was a big 842 in red letters, red numbers. And this was okay. I don't know how that can be there. I don't know why it's there. And I put it away. I'm not going to deal with this. I don't know what it is. I know I have to be with Katie. So I moved across the room and I got a little office chair that didn't have a back, and I pulled that up to her hospice bed and I dropped the railings, and she was laying on her back, and I put my head next to her head. I put my face on the pillow next to her head. And almost immediately there was an old African lullaby that my dad used to sing to us if we'd hurt ourselves, if we were upset or couldn't sleep or something. It was a very soothing lullaby. And I hadn't thought about this in years. And this lullaby came pouring out, but it was almost like a scroll. It was almost a visual thing, although I couldn't see. It was dark. It was still dark outside. And I realized this song was just going, I was singing this song to her, or humming it. And then I don't know how long that went on for, but I noticed that everything in my living room had disappeared. I couldn't hear the cats anymore because the cats were now locked up in different areas because of the fight. I couldn't hear the dog on the couch anymore. Everything had turned into a light gray mistiness or fog or nothingness. And it wasn't threatening in any way, and I wasn't even surprised. I wasn't scared. I wasn't anything. It was just noted that my living room existed. It was gone, didn't exist anymore. And I knew that I was only visible from my shoulders up as well as Katie. Even the top end of the bed was gone. I couldn't see that. And as soon as I realized that, then we were standing on a road. I knew we were still in my living room and everything had gone. And the next scene was I was standing on the road with Kate to my right. Now, we hadn't gone there. We didn't walk there. We didn't move there. There was no feeling of movement to get there. We were just standing there, and Kate was on my right, and I could feel her. She wasn't scared. She was I mean, she did multiple transatlantic crossings on a sailboat by herself. She was a very strong, capable lady. And she wasn't scared, but she was nervous. And Kate was tough on the outside, but jello inside. She was a softie. She would feed every homeless person she could find, and that's so what I was feeling with her next to me was the jello part of her, the soft, the gentle, the tough person had left. The tough part of her was not there. It was this lady who was in pain and hurt and a little nervous. So I could feel all that, and I could feel that she had pain, and then it just came. I just found myself telling her, and again, not with my mouth. It was telepathic communication. Um, these are not words I would have used before this, so it's kind of, but it was just my words were going across to her, and I said, "No, Katie, look, you can stand. You don't have pain anymore. You can stand and walk without any pain." And I didn't look at her all the way. We didn't look at each other all the way to the end of this almost. But I could see in my peripheral vision that she was bouncing on her feet, on her legs. She was testing. And then I could feel her feeling better, and she was standing more upright. And she was like, okay, this is better. Because now she was minus the pain. She was always very active. So she was back, getting herself back, it felt like. And then I told her that, oh, before, as we were standing there, also I noticed on the road, on the side of the roads, there were flowers and plants. And they had muted pastel colors, I want to say. They weren't smudgy or anything. They were just not bright colors, as a lot of people explain. But I looked at them, and as a photographer, I thought, oh my gosh, that would make an amazing photograph. And all the color disappeared. It was instant, it was gone. I knew the color was still there. I just couldn't see it. The flowers didn't become see-through or translucent or just outlines. I knew they had color, I just couldn't see it. So I'm like, okay. And there I got the message. This was about Kate, not about other things. So I told Kate, and I said to her, look, we're on this road. We need to walk to the end of the road. There's a gate there, and we need to go there. Now, that was at that moment, as I was saying that, I was wondering with and I think I call it my human brain, how do I know that? How do I know that there's a gate? I couldn't see it. How do I know we have to go to the gate? How do I know what I've just told Kate we're going to be doing? But that was a brief question. And she said, okay, give me a minute. Because the last 8 months to a year, every time she had to move physically or emotionally, come up against something, she'd say, give me a minute and just take all the time you need. We'll get through this. So give me a minute. And then after a little bit, she said, okay. And we moved down this road. But it wasn't, we didn't walk, we didn't float. There wasn't any sensation of how we moved. We just went down this road. And every couple of minutes, she'd say, just give me a minute, give me a minute. Or I don't know how long, every short space, give me a minute. And we were communicating, but I don't remember exactly what we were communicating. It was very low key, casual type of things there. And about halfway down this road, she came to a dead stop. And she said, no, Annie, I'd rather stay here with you. I don't want to go. I'd rather stay here with you. And I told her that no, she can't, that's not an option. She can't go back. We can't stay here. We can't go to either side. We have to go forward. But that'll be okay. I will be with her all the way. but that is our only option. And then I had the opportunity to tell her again how important she'd been in my life, that I was going to be okay, but it was going to hurt, but she'd been such an incredible strength in my life. And I thanked her. I had the final goodbye again with her, but in such a different format. It was again like this package of information was just being given to her. And after a little while, she said, okay, we can go forward again. Or she would just start moving and say, okay, she can go forward. I knew that she was okay to go. And then I could see the gate. And the gate was, it had square pillars and it had a slightly rounded top, and there were bars down that you could see through. But I couldn't see, at that point, I couldn't see anything through them. So I told Katie, look, there's the gate. And she did the give me a minute thing. And we went down the road a bit further. And then I started noticing that I could see people behind this gate. And I couldn't see them clearly because of the bars, but I already knew that my mom and my dad and my aunt and other family members and people were there. And at one point I said to Kate, look, there's mom and there's dad and there's Matthew and there's, aunt so-and-so and friend so-and-so and whatever. And she again locked down. And I knew what it was that was worrying her, is her being very independent. She didn't want anybody to come and get her and take her to the other side. She needed to go. So I said, don't worry, nobody's going to come for you. You are going to have to go to them before they will greet you. Nobody's going to come and get you. So she relaxed and we went on a bit further. And then I started naming again people behind the gate. And she tipped her head sideways to look. And I thought, okay, now I could feel her. After telling her that nobody would come and drag her or get her across, I could feel her relax. Every time I could feel her peace, I could feel that she was getting okay, more okay with the process. So we came to, I would estimate 6 or 8 feet from this gate, and we stopped. And I said to her, what you need to do to open the gate is just lift up your hand like you do in a classroom, and the gate will open. But before you do that, I have to take one step backwards. I'm going to stay here with you. I'm not going anywhere, but I'll be one step back. And again, in that moment, I questioned how I knew that. It wasn't even a case of why do I have to take a step back? It was just, how did I know that I had to take the step back? So I took the step back, and Katie's again, give me a minute, give me a minute. But by now I could see she was looking through the bars of the gate, and she was now interested. And the whole pose was she was much more upright and everything. And she stood there. It was before she opened the gate, and she said to me, Annie, can I look at you one more time, one last time? And I said, yes, of course you can. And so she's one step in front of me, and she turned almost all the way around looking at me. And I could see her blue eyes and her brown hair, and I could see that she looked healthy again. And it was because in her the color had come back. Everything else, the color was still gone. But in her I could see the color again. And it was but she didn't look at me very long. And I remember again in that moment thinking, gosh, I wish she'd looked at me longer. I could have done this forever, but she quickly looked away to look at the people behind the gate. And it was weird in a way. I felt my happiness at that action. So although I was disappointed with her not looking at me longer, immediately when I realized she was now focused on the people behind the gate, I was happy. It was so after a little bit, she opened the gate. She lifted up a hand and the gate slid open. And it didn't go past the gatepost. It disappeared into the gatepost. So, and there was nothing at this point on the sides behind it at all. And that gate slid open, and I could see so many people were standing there, but I could see them individual people, but I couldn't see their features. I couldn't see their eyes or the nose or the mouths. And they were rather like that painting you do when you take a little fine brush and you do one and it's a body and a dot the head. I think you call it minimalist painting. It was like that, but yet I knew who was who. I could see my family, and then I could see And I knew obviously who there were, family, friends who had passed, and people that I knew that had passed, and even people that Kate had known that had passed, her friends were there. And then there were a lot of people who I knew that I knew, but I didn't know where from. It's like going to, I don't know, the flea market and seeing somebody and saying, I know that person, I just don't know where from. There were lots of those people. So we're just standing looking at these people with the gate now open, and there's my nephew, Matthew, who died by suicide 2 years before. And he was standing right on the right-hand side of the gate as I was looking, but he was the only one that I could see the emotion in. It was almost like he was leaning forward. He had this grin on his face, or this open mouth smile on his face, because him and Katie were very, very close. And I'm getting goosebumps as I talk. And he was saying, he was saying, I don't know that he was saying, but I could almost feel it, that he was, Monty Kate's coming, Monty Kate's coming, that's awesome. And he was excited. Other than that, and my mom, my dad, my aunts, and friends and family, I knew that nobody looked at me. There was not any time that any of them looked at me. And again, in that moment, I queried that. How do I feel about that? And my instant response was, I feel amazing, because this is all about Kate. And even though she's just one step ahead of me, right, shoulder to shoulder close, I did not feel excluded. I didn't feel left out. I didn't feel sad because of that. It was fantastic that everybody was there only for Kate. It was all about Kate. So she stood there for a minute and we just watched this, and it was incredibly peaceful. Again, there was no color in them. I couldn't see. I knew they had color. I knew they had different color outfits on. I couldn't see the color though. And after a little bit, Katie says, well, can I wave at you one last time? So I said, yeah, of course you can. And she lifted her hand. She had this, I don't even know how she did it, her wrist bent, and she did this little wave. She just waved. And as that hand, she didn't turn around again. And as that hand went down, her right hand went out. And I use the word jaunty because that's how she walked. She bounced when she walked. And she walked off to everybody. And as she reached them, they then, before they all had their hands next to their sides, and as she reached for them, they then took her into the whole, and it was incredible. It was just the most amazing thing. And I could feel Kate's um, total okayness. She was 100% okay. And she was walking fine, and she looked fine. Like when she turned around, looked, and she didn't ever turn around again and look at me. And I realized in that moment that she doesn't need me anymore, because the time she needed me was when she was sick and in pain. And she was no longer in sick and in pain. So she didn't need to turn around anymore. So she went between the gateposts and was just this amazing greeting. And then I remember thinking, why is there big long hair laying on the ground between the gateposts? And it was just a thin little wavy hair, and I was kind of puzzled why it would be there. And then it split at that little line. And everything from the gateposts and all the people, Katie included, just drifted away, kind of like continents drifting. It felt like that. And they just drifted slowly into a foggy, misty. And I remember thinking that there's a very light blueness that they're going into, but I couldn't see the color again. It was just a feeling of color. And that just slowly drifted away. And as it disappeared into that mist, and I couldn't see them anymore, you see it on the movies when they do the special effect type of thing. It was just gentle. It was beautiful. And as that disappeared, up in this area, I heard this voice say, that was a job well done. I wasn't surprised at the voice. I didn't query why or where it came from. It wasn't it wasn't male and it wasn't female voice. It was just a voice that stated a fact. It wasn't praise. It wasn't anything. It was just something had just said something. And I was not even surprised. It wasn't like, oh, there's somebody here, because I hadn't seen anything of any other entity the whole time at all. And then I found that I was, you know how when you have a road and you have a pull-off space where cars can pull off the side of the road? I felt like I was to the left of where the gate had been because that road just gently disappeared into nothingness. So there was nothing there. And I was now standing slightly to the left of the road, and coming towards me was like a foggy mist type thing, just a shape, a fog cloud coming towards me. And I remember just standing watching it, thinking, oh, okay, not even querying it, not wondering anything. And it enveloped me. And I remember being inside there thinking it's incredibly peaceful. And I was being held upright, and it felt like I was being put back together. Not, I didn't feel like I was being made different. It just felt like if you build a puzzle and then you push all the pieces away, and then just something was putting me. It was like a healing. It was almost like I didn't feel that overwhelming rush of joy or love or light or anything like it. It was just utter peace. And it was like, I don't know how long I was in there for, but that was really good feeling. And then there was a feeling, I didn't hear it. It was a feeling of pop. It's kind of like if you like the athletes do sometimes, they jump through this paper thing on the field or whatever.
Yeah.
And it was pop, and I was back in the lounge. And had my head still next to Kate, and I realized it's light outside already. And as I'm looking, I still had my head next to her. As I'm looking around a little bit, I saw the clock. And the clock ticked to the second hand just tick, tick, ticked to 8:42. And I connected that number that I saw when I got off the couch. And I connected that, and I lifted my head to look at Katie, and her last breath went into my face. So, and then the rest of the house was back, the cats were screaming, but I've just come out of this incredible experience that's that was as real, it was more real than anything. And I'm reeling from that, wondering how could I had no idea that anything like that could happen. And then I'm looking down at my sister who's just passed. So I didn't explore that experience at all for a good few days. I put it totally in a box because I had to deal with Kate's passing and everything that goes with that. And after about 3 or 4 days, I sat down and I thought, I need to write this down because in case I forget it, but I haven't forgotten a minute of it. so, so, not only was it an incredible experience, but it started around about 7 o'clock in the morning and ended at 8:42. It's and I know Katie's fine.
She definitely is. You're such a wonderful storyteller. That was beautiful, and I'm so happy that you got to experience that in such depth. And it seems like you had a real understanding. Had you ever, when you came out of this, did you understand what had happened? I know that you understood it on this soul level because
Yeah.
you understood it, but had you
Mm.
heard of shared death experiences? Did you know what had happened? How did you make sense of all of these things that had happened?
I didn't know what it I knew, as you say, I knew that it happened. I had no idea what it was. It took me a couple of months to find out, after the initial month, it was tough. I did some computer looking and found out that it was called a shared death experience. But I really didn't have any idea what that or the shower deal was. The near death, I've been watching near death stories for years, as most of us all have. So, but that walk with Katie was I still haven't found anything close to that. Um, but being called a shared death experience, I know now, but I had no idea at that point. No, no.
Yeah. Do you have any insight, or have you sort of, I'm sure you've thought about this quite a bit. I always wonder about these things. It seems like everyone who has a shared death experience, it's with someone they are just so close with.
Mhm.
That you have this really strong soul bond. And
Yeah.
I wonder, is that all it takes? Or is it a twin flame thing? Or is it you being a sensitive and having a real strong tie to the other side in a way that allows you to be able to experience that. I don't think we'll ever know, but I'd love to know if you've thought about it and what you have thought about that.
I have thought about that. I just want to go back one thing and just tie up another thing with Katie before she passed away. That conversation, her very strong feeling that there were going to be two of us going. There's that connection. Now, with the shared death, I've had another shared death with an ex-husband that we went on. We were just there was no contact, and I was sitting in a eye doctor office one day, and we'd been separated for years, 10, 12 years already. And you think about them once every blue moon if something reminds you of them, but nothing else. And that day he wouldn't leave me alone. He was in my head. All these memories were just going around and around. And I'm like, I don't understand what's happening. I must have said something out loud because the whole waiting room suddenly turned and looked at me because I told him to go away and leave me alone. And 3 months later, I found out that he had died at that time on that day.
Wow.
So I don't know how much of a close connection there has to be. I don't know how much of a openness to spiritual things, but I've realized that after that has happened, I realize that there's been so many things that have happened over all the years that maybe I am. And the things that happened after Katie died, there's been multiple things that that maybe are happening because now I'm aware. So it allows these things to happen. Um, I can, as I say, I can only speak of my experience. Those two shared deaths that I wish everybody could have it.
I
With
know.
people.
It helps so much. I know it
Yeah,
doesn't take away the grief of missing someone and being sad that she had to be sick and thinking
yeah,
about all the things you could have done together and missing
mhm,
those her hearing her voice and her hugs.
yeah.
But how would you say that this has affected your grief process?
Okay, that's a multi answer. It's really made it so much easier. It's not. I did not think before Katie died. I did not think I would survive it. I really didn't know how I was going to go on with my life because we were so close, and also because I had sunk my the 10 years had been in taking care of her with her. So I hadn't created a life of my own, especially because the last 5 years we were here in Florida. So it was a new environment, didn't have friends, family around. So I really didn't know how I was going to do it. And I was she was also worried about it, but I was also very concerned that maybe I'm just going to not make it very much longer. The problem with that shared death making it easier is that it is easier when I look at other people grieving others close to them. But that comes with guilt because why am I not grieving? Like I feel I should be grieving. So there's a push and pull. There's a like, okay, I'm really getting on with my life. I'm able to, but does that mean that I didn't really love her that much? How come am I not feeling this deep, deep, deep? So it comes with a different set of balls to juggle, It's,
Right.
uh,
And I know you know the answer. I know that you know that it doesn't mean that you didn't love her. In fact,
no.
I'm feeling her now saying, coming in and going, no, no, no. But it's because it sounds like you had a firsthand account of how
Yeah.
wonderful I'm getting chills. How what I mean, I feel she's like I'm getting such big chills. She's like, no, because you got to see what's on the other side and know
Yeah.
that you'll be there too. This is just a
Yes.
temporary, it's not that you're not separated, you're just in different forms, but
Hmm.
also this is just a temporary time apart. But
Yes.
she's like, I'm always with you.
Hmm.
And now, I'm with mom, I'm with dad, I'm with, what's
Hmm.
your nephew's name?
Matthew.
Matthew, that's right. And
Yes.
on that note, I wanted you to share what we talked about earlier and why it's so important to you that you saw Matthew there.
Well, as soon as I came out of the fog of the early days of Katie passing and I started thinking about this, it really was it the whole experience as a whole was as if somebody had put this huge big package in my hands and I knew it wasn't just for me and I had to find a way to put it down. But with that thought came it's one package, but it's also two because it's about there is life after life. All our loved ones are okay, but almost equally important is this, and it's always bugged me how people will say when somebody commits suicide or that they die of suicide that they're going to hell. That is such an extra spike in the heart of the people who've lost them. And to see Matthew there so healthy, so well, so excited, so it was just absolutely, it was it's so important to let people know that even if somebody you know dies from suicide, they are okay. They are okay. Matthew looked fantastic. He's there. He's with everybody else. And you know, of the friends and the family that were there, I was talking to somebody just 2 days ago. One of them had no belief whatsoever in any religion. Another one was totally anti-religion. Another one died by suicide. And another one did some really rough things that nobody should be proud of at all. And yet they're all there. They're all there. What happens after they cross it? Maybe there's I don't know. I got to see up until the gate. And I got to see the people that were really close to Kate and me. And all I know is they're there, but particularly Matthew. That's important to me, is that people understand that it's not how you die, whether you get to be on the other side. It's you're going to be there, you know.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I know that's controversial in some ways because, but
Yes.
I try to explain to people as a medium that souls, at least, I don't know. I mean, it's possible, but most souls are not inherently evil. They're not, they're
Hmm.
just light. They're just here to have a human experience. So this
Yes.
ball of light enters into a human form. We have
Hmm.
brains, we have free will, we have
Hmm.
mental illness, we have trauma, we have indoctrination, we have abuse,
Hmm.
things that shape us and the way that we move through the world, the way that the choices that we make.
Hmm.
And it doesn't mean that we're evil because we
No.
do these things. This is where our soul went. So when the soul leaves the body, it
Hmm.
goes to the other side. It has a life review where it understands and it gets to experience what it felt like from the other person's perspective. And so there's an understanding of what they did wrong. When I bring people through, if they were people that did things that were not kind, that were
Hmm.
hurtful, that is the first thing that they're going to say is I'm sorry that I understand now that that wasn't the right way to live.
I have obviously done a lot of thinking as well, and I must say my belief on that, my thoughts on that, is that maybe we are here for the to experience whatever we can here, and if we are the person bringing bad things, maybe that's because we're experiencing the other side of a previous life. There has to, for
Yeah.
somebody to experience something bad, you have to have the person to give them the bad. So if we're here to experience or have experiences, somebody has to be the good one and somebody has to be the bad one. So inherently, it doesn't make that soul bad. It's just that's what he's playing. That person's. It's not a reason to forgive bad behavior. It's not a reason to say they get scot free. It's on a different level of understanding the way I'm. And talking about that is after Katie had died, I was, because that brings in reincarnation, as in doing it over and over, sort of thing. And Katie just absolutely didn't believe in reincarnation. She didn't want to discuss it. She was like, whatever. And one day, it wasn't maybe a month after her, 2 months after she had passed, I was having a big kid fit. I was stomping around the house and yelling at her. I was mad with her for leaving me. I was really, really angry with her. Despite having that experience with her, I was still angry, so I'm stomping up my corridor and I'm yelling at her, how dare you do this to me? How dare you leave me alone? I don't have anybody around me. How dare you do this to me? And right behind me, I heard her voice, but I heard it was not just a voice, it was her voice. And I spun around thinking, has this all been a nightmare? That how come is she talking to me but it was slightly up and behind me. And I spun around and what she said was, no, Annie, remember last time you went first. Now it's your time to stay longer. And I came out of that thinking, now wait a minute, that could not have been my thought. I couldn't have made because she didn't believe in that. But now she's saying the last time I went first and I get to stay longer. And so it's, that and so many other things have just opened up so many other avenues of queries and questions and thoughts. And,
Yeah, that was so
mm,
well explained. I agree with you completely. From what I understand, we make these contracts with other souls that are in our soul family. So your
yeah.
parents, Katie, Matthew, they're all in our soul family, and we're
Yes.
here playing different roles. So, like you said, sometimes
Hmm.
someone has to play the bad guy, and that's what you agreed to ahead of time.
Yeah.
So, and it doesn't make sense to us here, but it makes perfect sense because we do need to act these things out, and we have free will, so we can also choose a different path. But sometimes people just in these bodies are not capable.
Yeah.
They don't have the coping skills. They don't know how to make a different choice.
Hmm.
And maybe they'll have to come back and do it again in some other form, in some other lifetime.
Or maybe that format that they're in where they are not capable of making those
Yeah.
choices is part of the whole design of their time this time around. You
Yeah.
see, those are the sort of things that go
In
wrong.
fact, if you when you say that, it leads me to think about people who are, for example, sociopathic. I always think, what are those people doing here? Because
Mhm,
their brains are structured so that they do not feel empathy. And you think, well, that's a
mhm.
flaw in the human design. But perhaps that's why they were
Yeah.
assigned that brain so that these things would, it goes, we could go on a rabbit hole of
Endlessly.
endlessly, but there are these thoughts, and
Yeah.
I don't know. I know there are people that also believe some people are just born evil. I don't know. I haven't been there yet, but this is just what makes sense to me.
And I think a lot of the time, somebody said to me years ago, we're not designed to understand it all.
Yeah.
Because if we did, what are we doing here? That's what we do there, hopefully. But while we're here, if we understood, we wouldn't live the human experience. So we have to live the human experience. And this is part of my push and pull these days still is what with having, I mean, I woke up one morning at 3 o'clock in the morning and I was already turning over in the bed. I didn't wake up and then turn. I was turning over because I knew Kate was on the other side of my bed. And she was standing slightly higher. I knew she wasn't on the floor because she was higher up. She wasn't all the way up to ceiling. And she had this ball cap on and her khaki shorts she always wore and a top I didn't recognize. And she just smiled and looked down and said, "Hi, Annie." Or "Hi, Annie." And then she was gone. And then there's been multiple times when I've heard her voice. She actually gave me a strong talking to, which created a total meltdown in an aeroplane one day. And there's so many little things that have happened and big things. And then the remembering of my experiences before this time with Kate, because those were locked in a box. Now, all the new experiences are obviously here, plus all the old experiences are all, I mean, I've got pages and pages of them written down as they come back. Oh, remember when that happened and that happened and that dream and I saw that. And, and it's a thing to try and say, I've got to try and live in this world. It's only just been a year since Katie's gone. I'm starting to live my life. I'm starting to figure out who I really am. Okay, standing alone without Kate, who's always been there, being a year old. I've never known a time without Katie. And now I'm finding who I am. But it is so, when I say tempting to get very deep into the spiritual world and explore the things that I now know and I can feel and I can, I'm experiencing with other people on a daily basis. I can I want to get involved in that, but I know that I need to put my feet firmly here first. So there's a little bit of a push and a pull all day, every day. to
I appreciate that you said that when you sent me that email, but also I understand that as a medium too. It's so easy to just, want to check out sometimes or and live in that world.
Yeah.
That's where we're from. That's our home. We're here for a reason. And that is to
Yes.
experience what's happening here for better or for worse. So it is still important that we can be aware of I'm getting chills. We can be aware of our soul's
Mhm.
purpose,
Yeah.
aware of why we're here, and then I'm getting goosebumps all over my arm. So
Oh, it's
clearly there's truth being spoken. Thank you.
yeah,
Um, but we just chills after chills. So that means that, yes, what I'm saying is coming from them, which
yeah,
is that it's very important to be present in our human experience and have the
yes,
interactions we're meant to have and not shy away from difficult emotions and
yeah,
difficult circumstances. It's how
mhm,
we navigate it all that
yes.
really matters and why we're here.
Yeah, and for now, I'm just feeling that although, although there's still things happening, I just shut them off because I'm not ready.
Yeah.
And I understand that if I am ready to explore that, that'll be okay. And if I'm not, I'll deal with the things the way they come, So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
You're
it's
not.
as
Oh, I'm
carry
sorry.
on.
Go ahead.
No, I'm saying it's a choice that I know either way I take is okay because the other side is there. It's not going to change the final outcome.
Yes. What I was about to ask you is, before I rudely interrupted you, was that
You-
a lot of people have had the same experience that you have. Yours is the most detailed, and I believe every word of it, especially just because you're not just telling what happened, you're telling how you felt, what you thought, how you were responding as it was happening. And it's so real to me. And I've had a visitation that felt very much like that, where things are so clear and it's so real. And so, but when they come out of it, they tend to then have this ongoing communication with that loved one where they're receiving messages from them all the time. So I'm interested to know, with the ability to communicate with Katie, are you also
Mhm.
finding the ability to communicate with other relatives of yours or even people like me, people you run into? Do you find yourself receiving messages from the other side?
What I have found is that I don't, because I haven't explored exactly what every word means. When this happens, what does it mean? It's kind of like I didn't know what a shared death experience was until I found the experience, until I found the information. What is happening with me is that it's when I'm talking to somebody, it's like there's, again, not terminology I would have used, packets of information. I don't see the words, I don't see them as individual words, I don't hear them. It's just, okay, you're talking to that person, this needs to be told to them. It's like it's something that's here, it's not for me. It doesn't come from me because sometimes it's like I wouldn't have thought this way. I don't know what this really means, but you need to have this. So I'm finding I get that rather than anything more direct. And I've had to just stop, just say I can't do that because I don't know the person well enough, or I live in a small community, and the last thing I want to do is make bad friends or people think I'm totally I'm crazy. Everybody knows I'm crazy, but that you got to leak it out slowly. So
Right. Welcome to being a medium. That's exactly how I would experience it, how I experience it. I don't see, say, for example, Annie sitting next to you.
mm,
I can see your aura, but I don't see her as a visual, but I can
Katie, yeah.
feel her
Hmm.
energy is here.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I have an understanding of this needs to be said or spoken,
Hmm.
or she's saying, no, no, like you don't have to feel bad for not grieving. That was
Hmm.
you know this already.
Hmm.
You know this, but she just was like, tell her
That's good.
you don't she is so happy that you are not in the depths of despair. I mean, she
Yeah.
is like, I wouldn't want it any other way. Obviously, it doesn't mean you don't cry or feel sad or miss her, but she's like, no, no, I am so happy with how well she's doing because I don't want her to suffer because of my passing. So, and I can feel that. I can feel it. And when I say it, I get chills all over
Get
my whole
chills.
body as
Yeah.
confirmation that you're delivering the message correctly, which is like, I love
Hmm.
you, Annie. We are connected.
Hmm.
We are never apart. You understand it. And that's why you have a sense of peace. And nothing makes me happier than that. So, I am just so grateful that you came here too, that you're sharing your story on podcasts, that you're writing them down and that you're
Yeah.
sharing them hopefully maybe in a book, or
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
I'm writing a
eventually.
book too, and
Yeah.
it's a grueling process, but
Yeah.
you are doing a service for people here and
Mhm.
for the spirit world as well. letting people know that, yes, you do have to have this experience,
Mhm.
but fear not, it's not the end. This is not it.
It's not the end, and the interesting part of it from the first time when I calmed down and I really got to understand what had happened, really soak it in. It has never been for me. I've never felt this is something just given to me. It has
Yeah.
always, from the get-go, been something I have to. And if you speak to my friend Aranelna, she was I was almost frantic at a point in how to get it, where to put it where it would have the most benefit because this wasn't mine.
Yeah.
It's never been mine. And also, Katie being such a giving person and being such a person of wanting to make people feel better and do better. And this is also her story. This is what she would have done if the roles had been reversed. So
Yeah.
it's a really good way of getting across and being able to share to people because it is important. And sorry, the other thing before I finish that thought is that if this can happen to me, and I have put everything prior to this, I literally blocked them off. Okay, all those experiences prior to these with Katie, I literally ignored, and I'm like, okay, that was a weird thing, but I stopped it. Okay, there's been at least three people that I've spoken to, told them this story, and they're going, oh, wait a minute, I had an experience like that. And I'm like, that's what I say. If this happened, the fact that this can happen to, I consider a fairly ordinary person like me, we've all got these capabilities. We just lock them up because life gets busy.
That was important for you to share. I
Yeah.
I appreciate that as well, and I think it is important for people to know that as long as you believe, as long as you're interested, we're all mediums. Because we're all souls. We all
Yes.
can communicate telepathically with other souls. We just don't realize we're doing it. It is not, as I like to say, supernatural or paranormal. It is natural and normal, but we have been told or taught that that is
Hmm.
fantasy, it's magic, it's uh it's a dream, that's not real. It's all real. How is all of the rest of this real and that isn't? How is the earth spinning through space and how are we formed with an egg and a sperm and we come out with these complex identities? I mean,
Complex.
how are
Yeah.
computer technologies
Uh-huh.
created and all of these things? There's a higher intelligence that it why do
But
we dis what was the word? Why do we
dismiss it or
dismiss?
just
Thank you.
yeah.
Dismiss it. Thank you.
But I think it's fairly easy. I think it's fairly easy to dismiss it as well. I'll tell you a quick story. I was driving down the road many years ago and I was suicidal. And I figured it all out on this two-lane road. There's trucks coming filled with dead concrete, sort of chopped up concrete. On a corner, all I need to do is just turn my wheel in front of this truck, and nobody will know that I had done it. They will just think it's a fault or something, an accident. And I actually had my hand positioned the truck was coming laden with concrete, and it was perfect timing. And I had my hand positioned, and as I tensed my hand up to pull it over, I was driving a minivan at that time. The minivan just exploded in what I still call an angel orchestra. It was each note of music was a little bubble of different colors, and they were bouncing all the way around my minivan. And yeah, I didn't use very ladylike words to express my surprise, but the truck went past me, and I'm like, okay. I didn't think about that again until after Katie, because life was busy. Life was hectic. Life was upside down and inside out. So it's easy to even take the things that are fairly big like that, and people just tend to say, well, okay, that was something unusual, but I've got to do my normal duties and things. So it's not always. I'm thankful that it took that I was given this big thing to wake me up to realize that there was all these other, but other people, if you just sit down and think, what has happened to you that you couldn't explain but that you've put away because life got busy? It's all
Yeah.
the time. Every time I tell the story, somebody says, yeah, there you go.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Annie. This has been such a wonderful conversation, and I thank you so much for showing up and for taking the time to share with everyone. I know that this brings me a lot of comfort and peace, and I hope and intend that it brings others hope and peace too, and that it takes the fear out of dying.
Yes, because that's just not there anymore. I just want to say quickly as well, as far as the fear of dying, I never really had a fear of death. because the last 15 years were me trying to keep both my son and then my sister alive. My son's fine. Um, so I never really thought about it in terms of me. But now with this, I'm not, when I say nothing really matters here, I'm unafraid to make the changes in my life that are now happening because I know it's okay. Everything's okay.
And that's what I want people to take away. So thank you for sharing that again. It has been such a pleasure having you. Thank you. Bless you. And one more question, is there some reason why Kate would show me blonde hair from the back? Like it's long all the way down someone's waist, and I keep seeing like blonde hair, like beautiful. Did she have blonde hair?
We
Or
both had the same color blonde, natural blonde hair for about 20 years of our life, all the way down to our butt. All, yeah.
because she's telling me that she has that hair again where she is. She keeps
That's
showing it to
amazing.
me, and it's thick and beautiful and blonde and shiny. And she
Yes.
just keeps doing this and showing it to me. And she's bending and she's showing me just her back to show me that it's all the way down to her
All the way
waist.
down. That would
So,
make sense.
wow. I just also thought I kept seeing like a big W, like the name, it's like somebody's last name that starts with a W. It's like a crest or something. Um, I don't know what it is, but
And
yeah.
I know my mother's maiden name was Vissima, spelled with a W.
Got it. Okay. There's something
Yeah.
about a last name that starts with a W, and I'm seeing W. I don't know why. Does that,
And
why
my
does she?
daughter's incredibly psychic, and she had a dream 3 days before Kate died that my mom had come to get her, and it was a complicated, but basically my mom was there and Kate was there, but Lisa became my mom sort of thing. And Kate was very angry because she said, "No, I won't go with you, mom," because as teenagers we were really poor and my mom would make us panties out of old material. And Kate hated that. So and Lisa never, my daughter never knew that. We'd never told her that. So she called me up and she said, "Mom, I just want to let you know that Auntie Kate didn't want to go with Grandma because Grandma had made her wear old funny panties that she'd made. And she was mad with my mom. So that you bring that up, she's with my mom,
That
Visima.
makes perfect sense because I'm seeing this. It's so big that I can't stop seeing it. And it came over and over. And she's like, it's a last name, it's a family last name. So,
Visima.
and she knows that I wouldn't have known that it
Yes.
has a V because it has a V sound.
Yes.
That's so
That
also,
was my as you said that and I knew what it was like you would have said if you knew you would have said it with a V, not a W.
that's right, exactly. And there, I think there's also a beagle or something, like a dog that looks like black and brown and white. Did you have a dog? Did she have a dog?
I've got her dog, brown and white, right
Okay,
next to me.
gotcha.
Yes.
That's okay. So which I know you mentioned, but she just showed me that. Is it a sort of
Uh,
a medium-sized dog, like not small, not big, just kind of like
yeah.
this
Like a
big?
yes.
What's the
Yes.
breed? It looks like a beagle to me, but
She's like a mix with a chihuahua and a big huge fat stuffed sock.
oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, and that to me would be again, thank you for
Yeah,
taking
but
care of
she's
my.
about this big. She's brown. She's got white on her. Yeah.
She just showed me the dog, and it must
Uh,
to me that's a thank you for taking such good care of,
oh.
and also acknowledge. I would assume acknowledging that the dog is sitting right there because I can't see that, and
Yeah,
just
you
acknowledging I'm here with you and the dog.
uh
And there's something
wow.
I thought I heard the word princess, but I'm not sure if like she called the dog princess or got
And
it.
sometimes we call her princess.
That makes perfect sense. Okay, okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
And also there's something about somebody with a name that's like Margaret or Marg something.
She had a friend, Margie,
It's
that
what
was
I'm
one of her, my mom's closest friends.
and she's on the other
And
side.
and she was also Kate's very, very good friend of Kate after, yeah. So there
That's
were many years that Kate and her were friends, and my mom and her,
they're together on the other side is what she wanted you to
Margie.
know. Did they play cards or something? Did somebody play cards?
Chess.
Chess. Okay. It feels like they're playing a
Yeah.
game together. Oh, them, the two of them, because it looks like she's
Yes.
saying we're playing this game together.
Yeah. They might have played cards, but I think they were more into chess playing.
Oh, that's so funny. They're still
Yeah.
playing games on the other side together. Um,
Yeah. Kate's still beating them.
and something about Cheerios, or I don't know if you have Cheerios in South Africa, but I'm seeing Cheerios.
I trained my two little Yorkies I had with Cheerios, and they would still, that was their treats as well.
Okay, that
And
makes
they're both gone now, and I've had some visitations from them too.
okay, then they're there too because I'm seeing Cheerios, like, really
Hmm.
strongly, and, so that would be the dog saying hello as well, and her letting you know that you've got her dog, she's got your dogs. That's
Yeah,
kind of the, "You're taking care of mine, I'm taking care of yours, soon we're all" eventually, not soon, but we'll all
yeah.
be together on the other side, and there's
And I
also
was,
oh, yeah.
yeah, okay. I was
Oh,
talking about the Cheerios just last night with a friend of mine and the
there you
dogs.
go, that's what it is. Either way, it feels like a husband of did she have someone on the other side or you? Was someone married to Um, it feels like there's a husband on the other side. I'll try to get more. Um, I feel like he has heart palpitations, heart issues. Um, I feel like he passes suddenly of a heart attack. That's like not he's not in great shape, but is not it happens really fast.
That
Um,
that that could be her last ex-husband.
I
Yeah.
feel like she's talking about an ex-husband that died very suddenly from a heart attack that wasn't expected.
Yes.
And it's not like he was super young, but he also wasn't an old person.
Hmm.
It's kind of like he's overweight, but it's like that's not anything that anybody would have known about. But
Yeah.
she indicated him being there on the other side, and for some reason, I'm seeing him wearing. I'm only saying this because I'm seeing it.
Uh-huh.
Like a undershirt, like a white undershirt, t-shirt, just like a white
Hmm.
t-shirt. Is that what he would
Hmm.
always wear? I don't.
Absolutely.
I don't.
Yeah, that I know who that is. That is. Yep.
I'm feeling heart attack. My heart's
Uh-huh.
kind of like
Uh-huh.
pounding, and I'm feeling like a like
Yeah.
a, a pain, like he's doubling over, and
Yes.
he's with her on the other side. He's indicating sort of being. He's like, I'm a pain in the ass, is what he said. Like I'm definitely like difficult. He's like, I was difficult, but she's a
Uh-huh.
saint and kind of put up with me. But
Mhm.
he he's. I feel like it's more tongue and I'm getting chills. Like it's more of just acknowledging I was a real pain in the ass, and you're like he just was sort of relentless about teasing other people is kind of how he's like he couldn't be serious for a second, and he's like, that's my way of sort of deflecting my own kind of
He
insecurities or pain.
he was absolutely a pain in the ass, and they just had a fantastic relationship
Yeah.
after they divorced, even better.
I felt
So,
that too, that
but
they were divorced, but I felt friendliness. I didn't feel
yes.
like I feel like he's funny, like he's got a good sense of humor, but he's sarcastic and he kind of picks on people is like the way that
Hmm.
I sensed it, but he's not saying it from like this deep place of "I'm so sorry." It's more just like, "I know I was a pain in the a."
Light-hearted, yes,
Yeah, like, "I
light-hearted. But
know I gave people shit," is kinda like what he says. It's
that's
like,
how that was their relationship. And he would always say she's an angel to put up with me, even after the. So yeah, there was that.
yeah, because he did say she's a saint for her
Saint,
patience
yeah,
and
yeah,
but it's really she has a
she
sense
was.
of humor and she kind of finds it amusing. It's not even about like she can stand up for herself. She's not passive and she's not gonna get walked all over, but she kinda likes it because she needs
Yeah,
somebody tough because she's tough. It's
yeah.
like she can't have somebody who's too much of a softie or else she's gonna get bored. So
Oh
they
yeah.
made a very good couple, but they also have a child together?
Um, no, but he adopted the younger one.
Got it, okay. I felt like they have this child together that he's very
Yeah.
connected with.
Uh-huh.
That
Very
makes
connected. Yeah, they were very connected.
so much sense because 'cause I'm also seeing a blue butterfly at the same time.
My favorite butterfly is the morpho butterfly, which is that brilliant blue.
The blue butterfly,
And
yeah.
also one of the things that got me through her passing the best was actually not breeding butterflies, but I had some where I got the caterpillars, fed them, and watched the whole process.
Wow.
And that was a life-changing ability to. So there's a lot to do with butterflies.
Oh, so that makes sense that she was there while you were
Yeah.
feeling, like, through the butterflies, and again,
Yes.
she might show you this butterfly as just a hello from heaven as well, in
Okay.
like, whether you see it out in the yard or in
Hmm.
online, I mean, it's a pretty cliche symbol, but it's at the same time, a blue butterfly specifically feels really important. And also she's encouraging you to write the book because I don't know if she was writing something, but there was something about you being a writer and like finishing what she started. I don't know if does that make sense to you? That I don't know if she was writing
Yeah, we
something.
we
Yeah.
had spoken for years about putting a book together. but
Okay.
that's a separate from what I'm doing. So I'm working on
Oh.
them both. So
Okay, that's
yeah.
what she's encouraging you, and again,
Um,
don't worry if you don't feel like it, it's okay, you don't
mhm,
have to do it, but she's
yeah.
talking about you completing a writing that you were doing together, which means
Mhm,
she's very much behind that whole thing, which is so awesome.
mhm.
And I think there's something about crickets. Like, is there a cricket that's keeping you awake at night or something? Crickets. I hear chirping crickets. It was the
Um,
sense of like at night, like a cricket being stuck in the house. It's like there's
oh,
a
I had
cricket.
that a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
I had some critter that was making a noise. I never knew what it was, but it was making like a click sound as
Yeah.
it ran. The
It's
cats
like
were off.
behind a grate. She showed me there's a I think it's a cricket back there that's just that was making a sound. And I don't
Okay,
think she sent the cricket as much as she's acknowledging having been present and knowing about
present
it,
then.
because
Okay.
she's talking about a cricket that's like stuck in a grate and keeping you up at night and making a sound in your house. That's
Okay, I know what that's referring to. That's a couple of weeks ago. Yes.
yeah, that's so
Yeah.
funny. She's great. And also, I don't know if it's her or you baking muffins or cookies or something. I'm
Hmm.
seeing like pulling cookies or muffins out of the oven. Does that mean
I've started making whole wheat bread and a South African recipe whole wheat
okay.
bread. And
Okay.
also last night or the night before, I was talking about some muffins that I used to bake that I should bake again.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
It's again her just
interesting.
knowing
Yeah.
what's happening in your life
Mhm. Yeah,
and yeah, it's
that's
they
interesting.
tell me things like that just to show that they're with you for the banal things as much as
Mhm.
even though there people say like, "Oh, spirit's busy on the other side." They're not busy.
Yeah,
They're busy, but they can still be with you and
they can still
you're not taking their time.
their
They're
time.
omnipresent. It's people
Yes.
say, well, like what I don't want to keep bothering. No, they can observe everything that's happening with you, with
Yeah.
your child, with your family, with like
Hmm.
their children. They're like Santa Claus. They can be everywhere at one time. And so
Yeah.
it's a joy for them to witness and know they're not watching you, you know,
Yeah, in
on
private
the
time.
toilet in your private time. I mean, it's like they're aware of it, but there's no judgment behind it. They're
It's
not, it's not
not the same sentiment with a whole lot. So yeah.
no, they're not peering in the window watching you do things that are private. It's just that they're very aware of all the things that are happening on a day-to-day basis. Um,
Mm,
and there's something too about a game. I don't know what game this is. It's like dominoes that you put together. Maybe it's dominoes. I don't even know how to play dominoes, but you put
mhm,
together these little pieces that look like little rectangles and you put them
mhm.
together. They look like dominoes. I think they have dots, so you match them up or something. They look like ivory, little pieces of ivory.
There is a game. She was an eBayer. I got tons and tons and sorry, that's I got Thomas.
Hi, buddy.
Tons and tons of her eBay stuff. And there is one of those with it looks like white ivory, although it's not
Yeah.
ivory. Like I think there might even be dominoes in a little wooden box.
Yeah. I'm feeling and the box might be lined with felt or
Hmm.
something.
It's got a red lining.
Yeah, and I think they're I want to say I'm going to go with dominoes. That's
Okay.
just for again, that may just be an acknowledgement of something that you have of hers that
Oh,
is
I know
something
what she's telling me to do. It's halfway down, and I've got totes and totes of her stuff. And I know
gotcha.
which tote it is, and it's near the bottom. And she's telling me to get ready to finish sorting out all the stuff.
Okay,
I
that's
think
what it
that's the
is because
message.
she's
Yeah.
yeah, I can
Yeah.
hear the sound of them in the box like
Mm-hmm.
rolling around in there and and they look like little yeah, I think they're just like little dominoes. Um but yeah, I feel like she's so happy that you're happy. It's not there's and you know that, but she's like so happy with how well she said with how I'm so happy with how well she's progressing is the way that she worded it, which isn't some words I
Huh.
would choose.
Yeah.
With just how well you're progressing on your path and just the yeah, the ability to stay so centered and grounded and she said keep taking those walks like she's showing like she said you're walking a lot on this path like outside in nature like with trees and
Mm.
she said keep taking those walks because a it's good for your health but also it's a time for contemplation and reflection but also she's very connected with you and you feel very connected with her while you're doing those walks and you talk to her on those walks.
I do. I walk the beach about twice a week. So, and it's always
Gotcha.
that was our place to walk. Well, it's not
Yeah.
our place, but I mean, I always, we always went to the beach together. Thomas, come on.
Right, Thomas.
Um, and so yeah, I've picked up those again. Yeah,
Oh, good. Yeah.
so
She said keep doing those walks. I don't she just likes it when you take the walks.
okay.
It's really good for your mental well-being, and it
Hmm.
also
Oh
and
yes,
your
it does.
yeah.
Yeah.
It feels like it's something really important in terms of that, of bringing your endorphins up because, look, you're doing well, but it can get lonely, and it helps to
Yeah.
kind of connect with yourself and your soul. It's like you have friends, but it does also help for your own self-care to keep doing just she said just
Yes.
like I just heard it that way. Keep doing those walks. That's you're on the right track.
Yeah, I walk on the beach. It was hard in the beginning after she gone, but once I started walking, it was a definite. It's easier and it's important to me to do that. So I do that regularly. Yeah.
As part of your healing as
Yeah,
well.
you might.
She's definitely very alive. Very alive.
Yeah. Well, it was about a month ago, a little bit ago. I actually stopped hearing her voice like I heard it in the beginning after she had passed away. So I sat outside. It was 2 o'clock one morning. I couldn't sleep, and I'm like, Katie, why don't you talk to me anymore? And that's the last time I heard her voice. She says, Annie, because you got this. You don't
Yeah.
need me anymore.
I was gonna say
And
earlier the same thing that in a
yeah,
way she doesn't need me to talk to you, but she
yeah,
knows that I like to do she knows that
yeah, yeah.
she's like, you don't she doesn't need it, but she's like, as
But
long
it
as we're
is
here
nice.
but as long as we're here, she's a good communicator, so for her, it's not difficult. Like, it doesn't take her a lot. It doesn't take her she's just a very, elo eloquent verbal person. She's very verbal, we say, telepathically, she can communicate very easily. She's very expressive. Like she has a
Yes.
capacity for self-expression in a way that
Um,
not everybody does. And because I do and you do, it
Yeah.
makes it easier for the connection to come through. Hearing like
Um,
Jillian now, is that would that be a person that you know?
um, from child from childhood, there's a Jillian there, but my aunt was also a J name,
Okay.
and she's
Um,
and she's somebody was also very close to
close
me
with
and
you?
close to Kate, but she was the photographer, so I got closer to
Oh,
her.
did your aunt also pass of cancer? Because she said we died of something like it felt like there was a connect. We both passed of the same thing, she said.
Hmm.
Did
Yeah,
she have breast cancer too?
yeah. Well,
That's
she
what she
started with breast and then went everywhere.
that's
So
what she
yeah,
said. She goes, "We died the same way,"
yeah,
which is I mean, it's not a I guess, are you she's on your mom's side?
yes,
Yeah, that's your mom's sister. She
yeah.
said the same thing. I also passed because I asked her, "How did you pass?" She said the same way that Katie did.
Mhm.
Uh,
Mm.
that's really important, but you don't have that gene. It's like did you get tested for it or something and
No, I just after going through both my son and Kate, I don't even go to doctors. So
yeah, it's
I'm gonna wake up dead one day and
yeah,
then I'll be alive.
right. I felt though that she said you're gonna be okay. Like you don't have the same thing that we had. It was I don't know if you worried about it or whatever, but she said we both had that same gene, but you
We were
didn't.
that close, yeah.
Is there some reason with her where I would see like an orchestra, or classical music or violins or something?
My
String
mom,
instruments.
my mom played in the South African orchestra. She was a
Okay.
music teacher.
There you go. Okay, so that's your
Okay.
mom. That's
Yes.
just your mom popping in because I just saw an orchestra. I saw string instruments being played, so it's somebody that has a really strong connection with classical music and an orchestra. I can't tell if this is with your mother or your
Mm.
aunt, but I'm seeing wild irises, purple irises. What does
My
that mean?
mom, my
What's
mom
that?
painted them.
She
She was
did?
she was an artist, and that was one of my favorite drawings that she did. Yeah. And my daughter Lisa, who's the psychic, has actually got that painting now.
Oh, wow, that's
Yeah.
incredible. I saw it earlier too when
Yeah.
I've been seeing I saw that earlier, but it came back, so I knew I was right. So that again, it does feel like mom is very present. So is your aunt, but it feels like aunt stepped aside to let mom come
Yeah.
in because it really
Yeah.
felt like mom has been, has mom been gone kind of the longest? Because it feels like she misses me the most in a way. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but it feels like she's been gone such a long time that you need a connection with her. Does that like, have you felt sort of disconnected?
She's only been gone about 8 years now.
Okay.
And
Did
my
she have
aunt,
Alzheimer's?
yes,
Okay, that's your mom, right?
yes,
Yeah, because she just told me
yeah, yeah, and she
that's
actually forgot who I was at the end. So
that's
that
why
was
she
tough.
went because she just
Yeah.
said the reason I want her to know this is because when I said you missed her the most, it's because you had to say goodbye to her before she actually passed.
Mhm.
So I'm getting chills. She wanted you to know that she needs you to know that she's fully present and aware, which you do know. I know that you're already aware of that, but that's why you needed to hear from her the most because you almost forgot because she kept saying she forgot what I the feeling was she forgot what I looked like, but no, it's she forgot what I was like before I had Alzheimer's because the last memories were of me as a different person. So she wanted to come back as the person that you knew before because she said it's been too long. Like that was the part that you buried a long time ago. And
You
that's
know,
why she, yeah,
there's so much. It wasn't just the part that I buried, but mom's death. There wasn't time, in a sense, to grieve it because we were going through the trauma with Kate. So it was also, and it was also just 2, 3 days ago that I went into my other room where I have a picture of mom stuck up on my computer workbench. And I looked at that picture and I thought, I must try and connect with mom because I haven't done that.
that's why
So
she
there
did.
you
That's
go.
why your aunt stepped aside and pushed mom right in.
Yeah,
That,
yeah.
that just makes that I
And it was the first time that I actually had just a few minutes to really miss mom without the clutter of all the other stuff because there was always so much going on. And that just 3 days ago was the first time I've been able to feel like okay, I can concentrate on mom
that makes total sense. She's so happy that you understand that. And
now.
did you say there was a piano just now?
Yeah, mom was a music teacher, so we grew up all taking piano lessons. Kate went to piano college. Well, not piano college, you know what I mean, school of
Yeah.
music. Mom was yeah, she used to play all those classical music, classic
Yeah.
Bach,
Because I
Beethoven.
couldn't remember if you just told me that her picture was on a piano or if I just saw
No, I said on a computer
on a
desk.
computer desk and then she
Yeah,
showed
so I
me a
didn't say,
piano. She
yeah,
showed me a piano being very important. I don't know if you
yes.
still have the piano or if it's just a visual of
Oh, that
piano
was
was
back
very,
at, yeah,
yeah.
we grew up going to sleep with my mom playing the
Oh, that's so
piano.
beautiful.
'Cause she was, yeah, she'd play this oboe, clarinet in the thingy, but she'd also in the orchestra in South Africa as well as the piano.
Apart
Okay.
from the fact that I do see like a lace tablecloth. It looks circular though.
Mm-hmm.
Is that
I got,
hers?
yeah, mom's.
Okay. She said she has that of mine. But it looks like it's draped. Well, when I see it, it's draped over the piano, but it looks like it's draped over a table or something.
It used to be draped over the piano stool,
Okay.
and
That's, she's,
it's one that she made, a crochet
there we
table.
go.
Yeah.
Okay. She showed it to me as draped over the piano.
Okay.
But I could tell that you also have that still. So it's
Yeah.
crochet. It's like
Yeah.
not lace, but yeah.
It's fine crochet. It's like
Yep.
lace crochet, but it used to be in her house on top of the piano,
That makes sense. I
and
see it as
then
an
was moved.
off-white, like not
Yes.
white, but
Yeah.
it's cream
Just
colored, almost
creamy.
it's almost beige, but not. It's like a dark, dark cream.
Yeah.
And that's so I can feel the texture of it. It's incredible. Wow, that's I that's so
Wow.
I have I have full body chills. There's also somebody knitting, somebody who's knitting. Is that her?
My mom.
Your mom, okay. She's
Yeah.
doing this and showing me knitting,
Knitting.
which is like really dramatically showing me this as well, which is really
She
funny. It's
knitted everything, all our clothes.
it's like I knitted and knitted and knitted like it's like she's still knitting on the like she likes it so much she's still knitting on the other
Yes.
side.
Yeah, she
That's
just knit for the hell of it. Yeah.
that's so funny. I saw her sort of like in a rocking chair, like a wooden
Yeah.
rocking chair, which and doing like she just loves the meditative part of it and she's showed me her glasses where she's like pushing them up on her nose while she's knitting. Um I don't know why that, but there's just
That's
some
exactly the way
wire
she would
rim.
do it.
They're wire
Yes.
rimmed glass like the
Yes.
ones I just opened my eyes, they're like the ones you're wearing. They're wire
Yeah.
rimmed. They're not
Yeah.
yeah, just rocking and knitting, rocking and
She
knitting.
just loved knitting. That was just part of
Wow.
it, just couldn't sit with her hands. So she would just almost until a month before she died.
Wow.
Just knitted, yeah.
And
So
it's funny because I know she had Alzheimer's, but she's very, well, not but, I mean, obviously, she's also very, very intelligent, very, very
mm-hmm.
intelligent, very well read. Like
Mm-hmm.
before she gets Alzheimer's, she knows a lot about things like history. Um,
Yes.
like she's well traveled or at least knows a lot about
Mm-hmm.
things all over the world. She's very worldly, this woman.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it's hard because when she has Alzheimer's, she's like, I couldn't find my mind. But she
Mm-hmm.
knew, like she's showing me like the encyclopedia
Yeah.
um, which is
She
funny.
had those, yes.
Yeah, like, which is I
Yeah.
saw the whole set of encyclopedia,
Mhm.
on a shelf from A to
Mhm.
Z, and it's like she's read
Mhm.
it. I wanna say she read every page of them, or she
She probably
referenced.
did.
She really was like, I know she loves to learn, and so it's really difficult to lose your memory when you're someone that's such
Yeah.
a learner and a lover of information. Not that
Mhm.
it's not as painful for her as it was for you witnessing it, but it's like
Yeah.
'cause, she's like, "I really didn't have a I got agitated, but I wasn't most of the time I was in a." She said, "I was actually in a really happy little fantasy." Like, she really wasn't unhappy.
Once she got past the "I'm scared of losing my mind" to
Yeah.
the mind's gone, I would say easily the last 6 months, she was actually talking to my dad and her brother and her sister who had died. So,
Yeah. She
while I
was on
was
the
sitting there, she was in and out of this world. She was
Yep.
already
She said,
yeah.
"I was in a beautiful place." And
Mhm.
she said, "I was singing, I was it was music for me. I was listening to music, I was singing music, and I was
Mhm.
happy." She's like,
Yeah.
"So for me, it wasn't a painful experience." And, she's like,
Yeah.
"It was harder for other people watching me go through it, but for
Mhm.
me, it was not,"
Good.
so that was, I
Yeah,
think,
and
she
we
really took
realized
that.
that. That was,
Yeah.
that she was generally okay.
Yeah.
Just didn't know who the heck she was,
Yeah, which yeah, and I
Yeah.
think that's something she wanted to impart, that for me, it wasn't as terrible as you would think. It's just hard for other people to have to
Mhm.
let the person they knew go, but I was having a grand old time. Is that what she said? I don't know if she would have said something like that, but
Well,
she yeah,
yeah, that's exactly her wording. Grand
'cause
having a
that's not
grand
I
old
would
time.
never that's something that I don't know where that
Yes,
came from.
that is exactly
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
And also, as she died, with her last breath, as she was dying, she there were 3 words she said: "Mama, mama, mama." And it was just
Oh, of all of
I
us. And
I wanted to tell you one other thing. What you can't see just to the right of me, I have a little photo frame that the pictures
yeah,
change. And right before you said, and I can see the pictures, okay, even though I can, but I know the pictures as well. Right before you spoke about the long blonde hair, there was a picture I have on there of Katie when she was younger with the long
the
blonde
long
hair.
blonde hair, so
And
she's
then
also
right after that, you were like, and they're random. They don't come in the same order or anything. So the
yep.
pictures pop up anytime.
That
So
makes so much sense that if you're looking at it, she's showing it to me as
yeah.
something that you are seeing as well, which is so
Mhm.
cool.